Legend has it that Cleopatra committed suicide with the bite of a venomous snake.
Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, remains one of history's most intriguing figures. Revered as a beacon of power and allure, her life was laden with strategic maneuvers, love affairs, and tales that continue to captivate the world. Here, we unravel 15 of the most curious and spicy facts about Cleopatra, peeling back the layers of myth to reveal the truths of a queen who forever changed the course of history.
We're inside the center of Isis, the face of Cleopatra in a coin.
Number 1. Cleopatra's lineage and family dynamics. Cleopatra VII was a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek family that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Her family's reign was characterized by an intricate web of marriages, often between siblings, in a bid to keep the royal bloodline pure, a common practice among the Hellenistic elites of the time. Cleopatra herself was the product of such a union. She was the daughter of Ptolemy XIV Auletes and probably Cleopatra V Tryphena. As the customs of the Ptolemaic dynasty dictated, she married her younger brothers sequentially. Initially, she co-ruled with her younger brother Ptolemy XIV when she ascended to the throne. After his death, she married her even younger brother Ptolemy XIV. Yet these marriages were more of political necessity rather than romantic alliances. Her real romantic liaisons were with two of the most powerful men of her era, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Cleopatra's reign was not without its challenges. Her early years as queen were marked by political strife and a brief exile. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, under the influence of his advisors, sought to rule alone, and even went to the extent of driving her out of Egypt. Yet Cleopatra, with her characteristic wit and charm, secured military support from Julius Caesar, leading to her reclamation of the throne. This was just one example of how the family dynamics, laced with political ambition and intrigue, played out during her reign. The Ptolemaic dynasty's approach to marriage and power consolidation might seem peculiar to modern sensibilities. However, it was a carefully crafted strategy to ensure control and succession within the royal family. In this backdrop, Cleopatra's life unfolded, a life where family ties were interwoven with political alliances, and where the quest for power often blurred the lines between personal and political relationships. Number 2. The Golden Ship and her lavish parades. The opulence and grandeur of Cleopatra's reign are best symbolized by her golden ship, known as the Thalamagos. This massive two-storied vessel was not just a testament to the architectural and naval engineering of ancient Egypt, but also a reflection of Cleopatra's love for luxury and spectacle. The ship was adorned with gilded ornamentation, making it gleam under the sun, a sight to behold as it sailed the Nile. But the Thalamagos was more than just a ship. It was a floating palace. The vessel boasted lavish rooms, dining areas, and temples. There were gardens and even a swimming pool, creating an ambiance of leisure and opulence. It wasn't just a mode of transport for Cleopatra, but a statement of her wealth and power. The queen's penchant for spectacle didn't end at her ship. She was known for organizing grand parades in Alexandria, the capital of Ptolemaic Egypt. These parades were not just royal processions. They were theatrical performances meant to awe and enchant the onlookers. Cleopatra, always the central figure, often made dramatic entrances, ensuring she remained an unforgettable vision in the minds of her subjects and guests. One such instance is her famed meeting with the Roman general Mark Antony in Tarsus. Cleopatra made her entrance on a golden barge with purple sails, while oars made of silver moved to the rhythm of flutes and lyres. She posed as the goddess Aphrodite, with young boys dressed as cupids fanning her. The entire setting was designed to bewitch and beguile, and it succeeded, for Mark Antony was left utterly captivated. Number 3. Cleopatra's multilingual abilities. Amid the tales of Cleopatra's beauty, charm, and political acumen, one often overlooked facet of her personality was her exceptional intellect, particularly evident in her linguistic prowess. At a time when rulers often relied on interpreters to communicate with their subjects and allies, Cleopatra stood out by engaging directly in multiple tongues, cementing her position as an astute and approachable leader. Cleopatra's native language was Koine Greek, the lingua franca of the Hellenistic world. However, unlike many of her Ptolemaic predecessors, she took the effort to learn the language of the Egyptians she ruled. This made her the first Ptolemaic ruler in nearly 3 centuries to speak Egyptian, but her linguistic talents didn't stop there. It's believed that she spoke at least 7 languages, including Aramaic, Median, Parthian, and Troglodyte. Such a range allowed her to communicate effectively with a vast array of diplomats, traders, and scholars from various parts of her expansive kingdom and beyond. Her multilingualism wasn't just a display of intellectual capability, but a strategic asset. By speaking directly to foreign envoys in their language, Cleopatra could negotiate more effectively, ensuring that her words and intentions were not lost in translation. Furthermore, by addressing her Egyptian subjects in their tongue, she fostered a sense of connection, breaking the linguistic barrier that had persisted between the Ptolemies and the native Egyptians for generations. Her linguistic capabilities also played a role in her personal relationships. When interacting with Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, Cleopatra could converse fluently in Greek, a language they were familiar with, further enhancing her appeal and diplomatic leverage. Number 4. Her relationship with Julius Caesar. The relationship between Cleopatra and Julius Caesar is one of the most storied affairs in the annals of history, a union of 2 of antiquity's most formidable figures. Their initial meeting was both dramatic and politically charged, setting the tone for an alliance that would reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Mediterranean. Their first encounter in 48 BC was marked by Cleopatra's legendary entrance into Caesar's presence. To avoid her adversaries in Alexandria and to ensure a private audience with the Roman leader, she had herself wrapped in a carpet, which was then presented to Caesar. Upon its unrolling, Cleopatra emerged, captivating the Roman general with her wit and charm. Their alliance was as much political as it was personal. Egypt was a granary for Rome, and securing its loyalty was paramount for Caesar. Cleopatra, on the other hand, sought Roman support to solidify her position as pharaoh, especially against internal threats like her brother, Ptolemy III. Their interests aligned, and the bond between them deepened, leading Cleopatra to visit Rome and even bear Caesar a son, Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. However, their relationship was not without its controversies. In Rome, the affair was frowned upon, especially given that Caesar was already married. Cleopatra's presence in the city, living in Caesar's villa, was a topic of scandalous gossip, and her influence on the Roman leader became a cause of concern for many senators. Caesar's assassination in 44 BC marked a turning point in Cleopatra's life. With his death, she lost a crucial ally in Rome. Recognizing the volatility of the political situation there, she returned to Egypt. Their relationship, though short-lived, had significant consequences. Caesarion, regarded by Cleopatra as Caesar's heir, became a symbol of the union of Roman and Egyptian power, though he would also become a target for those who saw him as a threat to Rome's future. Number 5. Her relationship with Mark Antony. After the tragic end of her liaison with Julius Caesar, Cleopatra's life would once again intertwine with another influential Roman, Mark Antony. This relationship, fervent in its passion and intricate in its politics, would come to define the final chapter of Cleopatra's reign and life. In 41 BC, Mark Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus to answer accusations that she had aided Caesar's assassins. But the Egyptian queen, ever the master of grand gestures, turned the meeting into a display of her power and splendor. Arriving on the Cydnus River on a golden barge with silver oars, dressed as Aphrodite, she captivated Antony with a spectacle that showcased her wealth, charisma, and undeniable allure. Their meeting shifted from one of potential confrontation to mutual admiration. Antony, ensnared by Cleopatra's charm and the promise of Egypt's riches, soon found himself spending the winter in Alexandria. Their bond deepened, leading to the birth of 3 children: Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. Beyond the personal, their union forged an alliance that saw Egypt and the Eastern Roman territories stand together against the rising power of Octavian in the West. However, their alliance was more than a match for love or political convenience. It was a shared dream of dominion, the donations of Alexandria in 34 BC, where Antony declared Cleopatra Queen of Kings and their children rulers over various eastern territories, was a bold assertion of this shared vision. Yet dreams often collide with reality. The relationship between Cleopatra and Antony was not looked upon kindly in Rome. It fueled propaganda by Octavian, who painted Antony as a traitor under the spell of an exotic temptress. This culminated in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, a naval confrontation that saw Octavian emerge victorious. Number 6. The iconic entry into Rome. Cleopatra's entrance into Rome, accompanied by Julius Caesar, was an event that showcased the audacity and flair of both figures, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of history. Their arrival wasn't just a display of personal affection, but was a calculated political statement, emphasizing the fusion of Roman and Egyptian powers. The streets of Rome had witnessed many triumphant processions, but none quite like the spectacle of the Egyptian queen's entry. Riding alongside Caesar, Cleopatra was presented not as a mere foreign dignitary, but almost as a co-sovereign. The grandeur of her procession, filled with exotic animals, treasures, and representations of her kingdom's vast wealth and culture, was a sight to behold. It emphasized Egypt's splendor, and by extension, the vastness of Caesar's influence, having allied himself with such a power. Yet beneath the pageantry lay the undercurrents of Roman politics. Cleopatra's prominent position in the procession, and indeed in Caesar's life in Rome, was a contentious issue. To many in the Senate and the Roman populace, she was a foreign queen, an outsider, and her prominent display was seen as a challenge to traditional Roman values. The fact that she resided in Caesar's villa and their son, Caesarion, was heralded as Caesar's heir, further amplified these concerns. Moreover, Caesar commissioned a golden statue of Cleopatra as the goddess Isis, which was placed in the Venus Genitrix temple. This act was more than symbolic. It was a provocative gesture that elevated Cleopatra's status and intertwined her identity with Rome's pantheon of revered figures. Number 7. Cleopatra's perfume factory discovery. Cleopatra's allure has been immortalized in numerous tales, and among them, her association with fragrances stands out. Beyond mere tales, a significant discovery in recent times offered tangible evidence of the queen's affinity for perfumes. On the northern shores of the Dead Sea, at a site called Ein Gedi, archaeologists unearthed remnants of what is believed to be an ancient perfume factory linked to Cleopatra. This factory, dating back more than 2,000 years, gives us an insightful peek into the sophisticated world of perfume making in antiquity. Among the ruins, large clay amphorae were found, which once contained precious oils and other ingredients vital in the creation of luxurious fragrances. These meticulously crafted scents were not just symbols of opulence, but also tools of diplomacy and seduction in Cleopatra's arsenal. The discovery at Ein Gedi, though decaying with time, still bore faint traces of the fragrances stored within. Advanced analytical techniques allowed researchers to identify components of these ancient perfumes, revealing a complex blend of myrrh, olive oil, and cinnamon, among others. These components were not just local. They represented a vast trade network stretching from the Mediterranean to the distant lands of India, highlighting the expanse of Cleopatra's influence. Legend speaks of Cleopatra's use of perfumes as a strategic move in her encounters with Roman leaders. Before her famed meeting with Mark Antony, it's said that she had the sails of her ship soaked in fragrant oils, ensuring that the wind carried her allure to Antony even before their face-to-face encounter. Number 8. The famous pearl dissolving in vinegar tale. Among the myriad tales that swirl around Cleopatra, few are as evocative of her opulence and audacity as the story of the pearl dissolved in vinegar. While some historians debate the veracity of the tale, it remains an emblematic narrative that underscores the queen's extravagant nature and her penchant for making grand statements. The story unfolds during a lavish banquet Cleopatra hosted in Mark Antony's honor. In a bid to demonstrate Egypt's unsurpassed wealth and her own magnanimity, Cleopatra made a wager with Antony that she could consume the wealth of an entire nation in a single meal. Intrigued, Antony accepted the challenge, curious as to how the queen intended to achieve this feat. As the meal progressed, Cleopatra remained unfazed, offering no hint of her intentions. It was only at the end, with a dramatic flourish, that she unveiled her gambit. Removing one of her pearl earrings, one of the largest and most valuable in existence, she had it crushed to powder and dissolved in a goblet of tart vinegar. Once the pearl was entirely dissolved, Cleopatra drank the concoction, effectively consuming an immense fortune in a single gulp. While modern chemists debate whether a pearl could indeed be entirely dissolved in vinegar in such a short span, the essence of the tale remains potent. It wasn't just about the pearl or the vinegar, it was about Cleopatra's ability to astound, to make a point, and to remain unforgettable. Number 9. Cleopatra's experiments with poisons. In the tapestry of tales surrounding Cleopatra, one thread that intricately weaves through is her fascination with poisons. Far from a mere macabre interest, Cleopatra's exploration of toxins was a blend of scientific curiosity, political prudence, and a reflection of the perilous times she inhabited. Living in an era where power struggles often culminated in covert assassinations, Cleopatra recognized the potency of poisons as tools of statecraft. Yet, her interest transcended the mere practicalities of eliminating rivals or potential threats. As a learned ruler, she sought to understand the properties, effects, and potential antidotes to various poisons, turning her palace into a laboratory of sorts. Historical accounts suggest that she would conduct experiments, albeit ethically questionable by today's standards, on condemned prisoners. These were not arbitrary exercises in cruelty, but methodical tests to determine the efficacy of various toxins, their onset time, and the visibilities of their symptoms. Such knowledge would not only allow her to deploy poisons effectively if needed, but also to detect and counteract them if used against her or her inner circle. One particular toxin that held Cleopatra's interest was the venom of the asp, a symbol that would later become synonymous with her own demise. The asp, revered in Egyptian culture and mythology, was believed to offer a relatively painless death, something Cleopatra was keen to ascertain through her experiments. Number 10. Her influence in the cult of Isis. The cult of Isis, with its origins in ancient Egypt, was a prominent religious movement long before Cleopatra's reign. However, under her stewardship, the cult underwent a resurgence and saw its influence expand, both within Egypt and beyond its borders. Cleopatra recognized the power of aligning herself with deities, and in the case of Isis, the association was particularly potent. Isis, the goddess of magic, fertility, and motherhood, was often depicted as the ideal mother and wife, roles that Cleopatra sought to embody in her portrayal to her subjects. Cleopatra's identification with Isis was not just symbolic, it was deeply political. By presenting herself as the living embodiment of the goddess, Cleopatra reinforced her divine right to rule, bridging the gap between the spiritual and the political. This divine association bolstered her image, especially in times of political uncertainty or strife, providing her with an aura of sacred invincibility. Moreover, the spread of the Isis cult beyond Egypt into Rome and other parts of the Mediterranean can be attributed in part to Cleopatra's influence. Her relationship with prominent Romans like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony introduced the cult to a broader audience, making it a familiar and sometimes revered aspect of Roman religious life. Through festivals, coinage bearing her image alongside that of Isis, and grand architectural projects, Cleopatra ensured that the intertwining of her identity with the goddess was a dominant narrative of her reign. In doing so, she not only fortified her position within Egypt, but also left an indelible mark on the religious landscape of the ancient Mediterranean. Number 11. Cleopatra's Ptolemaic fashion statements. Cleopatra, beyond her political acumen and legendary affairs, was a trendsetter, using fashion as a tool of diplomacy and identity. Her attire was a blend of traditional Egyptian elements with the Hellenistic styles of the Ptolemaic dynasty, creating a unique fusion that became synonymous with her image. Her choice of garments, often richly colored and adorned with intricate patterns, reflected the wealth of the Egyptian kingdom. Gold, a staple in Cleopatra's wardrobe, symbolized the sun, a powerful icon in Egyptian mythology. The use of precious stones and metals in her jewelry was not merely ornamental, but conveyed messages of power, divinity, and status. The famed melon hairstyle, with its tight curls wrapped around a diadem, became emblematic of Cleopatra. While this style was prevalent among the Ptolemies, Cleopatra's widespread portrayal in this manner solidified its association with her. Another significant aspect of her fashion choices was her makeup. Cleopatra's kohl-lined eyes, a trademark of her appearance, were more than just a beauty statement. In ancient Egypt, kohl served both aesthetic and practical purposes, offering protection from the harsh desert sun and warding off evil spirits. Cleopatra's fashion choices were deeply strategic. Whether she was meeting Roman dignitaries or addressing her subjects, her attire was carefully curated to project an image of power, divinity, and cultural synthesis. In blending Egyptian and Greek elements, Cleopatra's fashion choices encapsulated the essence of her reign, a merging of traditions, cultures, and aspirations. Number 12. The strategic power plays through her children. Cleopatra's political acumen was manifest not just in her direct dealings with contemporaries, but also in her forward-thinking strategies involving her offspring. As a mother to 4 known children, she skillfully positioned each in roles that not only solidified her dynasty's grip on Egypt, but also expanded its influence beyond its borders. Caesarion, her son with Julius Caesar, was the most prominent. Proclaimed as King of Kings, he was Cleopatra's attempt to blend the might of Rome with the ancient legacy of Egypt. His very name, meaning Little Caesar, was a clear proclamation of his Roman paternity, a fact Cleopatra hoped would ensure his succession in both Egypt and possibly Rome. Her children with Mark Antony, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus were likewise employed in Cleopatra's geopolitical games. Alexander Helios was named after the sun god and was designated King of Kings, echoing his half-brother Caesarion's title. This mirrored Cleopatra's ambitions in the east, with territories like Armenia within his prospective dominion. Cleopatra Selene, symbolizing the moon, was bestowed the title of Queen of Cyrenaica and Libya. Meanwhile, Ptolemy Philadelphus was given a share of the eastern Mediterranean coast. Through these designations, Cleopatra sought to carve out a Mediterranean empire, ruled by her progeny, and bound together by the shared bloodline of Roman and Egyptian royalty. Number 13. Her death, mystery, and theories. The demise of Cleopatra is as enigmatic as her life. Historically documented as a suicide following Mark Antony's own tragic end, the exact circumstances of her death remain shrouded in mystery, giving rise to a plethora of theories over the centuries. The most enduring tale is Cleopatra's death by the bite of an asp, a symbol of divine royalty in Egypt. This version romanticizes her end, suggesting a death befitting a queen, serene and chosen. However, given the size of an asp and the slow agony of its venom, some historians question this narrative. Alternate theories propose that she might have used a toxic ointment or ingested poison. The accounts of her death speak of a sudden demise, with no visible signs of assault, lending credence to the poison theory. Some even speculate that Cleopatra chose a combination of toxins to ensure a swift and painless end. In recent years, claims of possible murder have emerged. The ascendant Octavian had reasons to eliminate Cleopatra, given her potential to rally resistance or her capacity to create complications for Roman rule. While her exact cause of death may never be definitively known, Cleopatra's end, much like her life, remains a blend of fact and fable, a testament to a queen who has never ceased to captivate humanity's imagination. Number 14. Cleopatra's mastery in political alliance through seduction. In the intricate chessboard of ancient geopolitics, Cleopatra's genius lay not only in her administrative acumen, but also in her ability to forge powerful alliances. And one of her most potent tools was her art of seduction. To frame her relationships with the likes of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony merely as romantic liaisons would be to undermine the political profundity behind these connections. Cleopatra was well aware of her allure and the power it held. With Caesar, Her strategic entrance wrapped in a carpet showcased her audacity and set the stage for an alliance that strengthened her position in Egypt. Their relationship, crowned by the birth of Caesarion, was a union of mutual benefit. While Caesar secured Egypt's loyalty and its grain supply, Cleopatra gained Rome's military backing and a Roman seal of legitimacy to her reign. With Mark Antony, a similar blend of passion and politics unfolded. Their union wasn't just the coming together of two enamored individuals, it was a merging of Eastern and Western powers. Their combined territories and shared ambitions posed a formidable challenge to Octavian's Roman dominance. Cleopatra's seductive power was not merely physical, it was intellectual. She engaged with her allies not just as a lover but as an equal, discussing governance, military strategies, and economic policies. Her charisma was enhanced by her wit, wisdom, and her ability to converse in various languages. Number 15. The misrepresentations in art and cinema. The figure of Cleopatra, as portrayed in modern art and cinema, often deviates from historical records, leaning more towards the realm of fiction and fantasy. While she is frequently depicted as an epitome of beauty and allure, the historical Cleopatra was much more than just her looks. Artists and filmmakers have often exaggerated or misinterpreted aspects of her life for dramatic effect. For instance, her relationships with Caesar and Antony, while undeniably passionate, are often stripped of their political nuances and depth. Cinematic renditions sometimes portray her as merely a seductress, overshadowing her astute administrative and strategic skills. Modern portrayals also often neglect Cleopatra's Hellenistic heritage, instead giving her a purely Egyptian persona. Historically, while she embraced Egyptian culture, she was of Greek descent, a duality seldom captured in popular representations. Additionally, the image of Cleopatra as a fair-skinned, blue-eyed queen, popularized by Hollywood, is at odds with historical descriptions and coinage from her era, which depict her with more traditionally Mediterranean features. Such misrepresentations, while offering engaging narratives, often do a disservice to the multifaceted queen. Cleopatra was a blend of strategist, diplomat, linguist, and administrator, and while her beauty and charm are undoubted, it's essential to recognize and celebrate the depth and breadth of her legacy.